Why, hello and welcome to my channel, Strawberry Jen's channel. And today, for my very second video, and again, you'll have to forgive me, I'm practicing my more effeminate voice. I don't quite know how it sounds. I am practicing, I'm trying to get better, but I personally don't think I really pass yet. Anyway, retro games! The Sega Genesis. One of my favorite systems of all time. I'll tell you, I wanted to just, for this video, just gush over three retro titles in particular. Really two of them, but I want to include the third one because I feel like it would feel left out if it wasn't there. So the first one that we have is High Seas Havoc. I wouldn't call it a great game, but it is a good game. And it's fairly unique. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't call it Pirate Sonic, the knockoff. Because frankly, it kind of is. The second game is a really good game. And as a matter of fact, I have done a 3D model and like a couple drawings of one of the bosses from this game. And that is Rocket Knight Adventures. It is a childhood classic of mine, and a personal favorite. And then the third game, probably the best of the three, and it came out late in the Sega Genesis era. It was one of the last releases for the Sega Genesis, was the game Dynamite Headdy. And it was essentially, if I had to give it a name, it was Rayman before Rayman existed. That's pretty much what I would call it. So our first game, High Seas Havoc, as I called it, Pirate Sonic. Now, I will say that in the early 90s, Sonic was still considered cool. He didn't have any of his cringe festival yet. I mean, that wouldn't happen until the 2000s. But High Seas Havoc was really interesting for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that it wasn't a masterpiece, firstly. The other thing, too, is the Sega Genesis was an era before, saving, you just save your game and then come back to it, was a thing. So you needed a couple things. Firstly, this was a game that you basically had to sit down in one sitting and try and beat it. I actually remember when I was a wee lad, and I mean, I'm trying to become a grown woman now, but I was a little boy when I was young. I would actually turn off my TV, leave the Sega Genesis on, and have it on pause so that I could continue with the game at a later point. This is what the stone age of gaming was like in the 90s. Oh, I'm being brought back to nostalgia points. I will say I prefer much better having an actual save state function nowadays. But anyway, one of the interesting things about this game is how it handled difficulty. I don't necessarily think it was the best choice, and there was definitely better things being done in other games. And I don't think people had really figured difficulty out quite yet when they were making these 16-bit games. But one of the things that was a little bit unique about High Seas Havoc is if you put it on easy, the game technically was beatable. I mean, if you wanted to speedrun at any percent, you would just turn on to easy mode, and you would only play till a specific level. And that specific level is an auto-scroller level inside of a burning city where you're being chased by a living fireball. That was the level. And on easy mode, once you beat that level, you would finish the game, and the game would tell you, try again on a harder difficulty. Irritatingly, because again, there were no saves back in this era, you had to start the whole game over again. So you might as well just start at medium in the first place and get to the next level to actually beat the game. And here's kind of the second crazy thing about this game when it comes to at least the difficulty. And also, Havoc, the player character, is actually kind of a fun character to play as. Not perfect, not as fluid as playing a Sonic or a Rocket Knight or even a Dynamite Headdy, which we'll be talking about those two games in a second. But it was crazy because the way the levels in this game were structured is you had your basically pirate not Green Hill zone, then you had the ocean zone. In the ocean zone, you would see it in easy mode. It was actually really cool, and the boss was this pirate massive dog, and he would blow bubble gum, like he would chew bubblegum balls, and like you would have to pop them. I'll be sure to put the thing here. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. And once you got to the next level, if I'm not mistaken, that was the Burning City level. And if you were playing on medium, you would have 2 of the Burning City stages. And after that, you had a snow level. And the first one was annoying, but doable. And then there was this massive difficulty spike. And I remember only getting past it once as a kid. I still don't think I even beat this game with save states. I definitely got further with save states, but I don't think I ever beat it because it just gets so ridiculous so fast. So that is the first game in the roster. I think what I liked the most about High Seas Havoc were its bosses. They were pretty simplistic, however, they were also really memorable. Especially, obviously not the Living Fireball from the easy mode, but if you played on medium and you got to the second Burning City stage, you had to fight a mole person that would bomb the whole stage. It was actually a pretty unique and fun boss. And I would say just about all of the bosses were actually pretty cool. So that is, this is my second take, and I almost called it Rocket Knight Adventures for the second time. I mean High Seas Havoc. Maybe I shouldn't record these really late at night, but you know, I wanted to record, so here I am, recording. Alright, so now on to the second game, Rocket Knight Adventures. Already off to a little bit more of an exciting start, and this, for me, it was always a toss-up between this game and Dynamite Headdy, but this game was really cool in so many ways. And growing up, not only did I absolutely love this game, both this game and Dynamite Headdy really influenced literally like my entire art style. I was a small, wee child when I first got the game, and you know, being influenced by the art style and being a little artsy-fartsy type of drama kid. That's a different story about the drama part, but Rocket Knight Adventures not only was a really cool game, it was very aesthetically pleasing. And it was kind of funny because there's 3 Rocket Knight Adventures games total. No, 4 that I'm aware of. 3, let's call them classic ones, and then there was one that I believe was either for the Dreamcast or the PlayStation. And the one that I'm talking about is the very first one for the Sega Genesis. There was a Nintendo version, if I'm not mistaken. It had a very similar name, like Adventures of Rocket Knight or something like that. And there was Sparkster, which was almost a spin-off, but not quite. Anyway, so the one that I'm talking about is the one that has the enemies where all of the enemies are like pig people. And again, you are saving your standard fare princess from the evil rival knight Axel in this game, along with the evil pig empire. Ooh. And yeah, this game was a lot of fun as you were playing Rocket Knight and Possum, who had a rocket. And you could actually fly around all over the screen with this character. And it feels like it would have been like a Neo Geo Pocket game as well. Alright, and I have to gush about the third game. Now for me, thanks to the power of editing, I'm actually recording this third part much later than the first 2. Now, I really want to get very much back into the YouTube game, and I think I finally have a plan on how to do that. And I do indeed think that I'm going to be talking a lot more about video games, reviewing, and game design and things like that. Partly because I do have a piece of paper that says I'm qualified to talk about this stuff. I don't think I am, but I do got the piece of paper that says that I am, so I'm going to pretend that I am. So anyway, the third game in the trio of awesome Sega Genesis mascot platformers that heavily influenced pretty much who I am today. I say that with some exaggeration, but really no joke. At least with the way my art style is, I really do attribute Rocket Knight Adventures and Dynamite Heady and High Seas Havoc to my art style, and I'll be sure to put in the video some of the artworks relating to these games up, maybe even some time lapses, because I'm not totally sure what the video portion of this video is going to be, as I am recording this third part really off the cuff. So Dynamite Heady itself, I think of the three games, was telling the most interesting story. Now, being American, I had the American version in 1994, and I learned later that the Japanese version of this particular game is much, much easier, and it's very much rooted in some Japanese cultural things that did get changed around for the American version, so you have two versions of the game that are actually surprisingly different from each other. Like, for example, in Dynamite Heady, the whole game is a puppet show stage, and you're a puppet who is like the best puppet, and your rival, Trouble Bruin, who is a character I very much relate to, just trying to get into that spotlight, is constantly chasing and harassing you throughout the entire game. And it's not quite a boss rush. It's not quite a boss rush game, but it's really close to it. And the bosses, I think, are the best part of the game for sure. I'll be putting a couple examples on the screen right now, particularly when Trouble Bruin grabs Dynamite Heady and forces him into the back stages. It's pretty early on in the game, and just from a storytelling perspective in the 16-bit era, it's just kind of this epic moment that I keep trying to recreate and recapture. It is so much fun. There is an interesting story, too, about the two versions of Dynamite Heady. Now, this was the 1990s. Blockbuster was still a thing, and growing up, I lived very near to their competitor knockoff, Eye on Video, spelled like your eyeball. And it turns out that when Dynamite Heady came up on the table to be released in America, they wanted us American kids to rent it more. So they decided at a particular moment in the game to spike the difficulty on purpose. Not exactly the best business practice, but it led to a very interesting game, to say the least. So there is a boss that, at least in the American version, is called Gatekeeper. And this Gatekeeper boss, which, again, because I love this game so much, I'll definitely be putting footage from this game on the screen, is where that difficulty really spikes. And it's funny that it's called Gatekeeper, because that is literally what it is doing. It is gatekeeping you from playing the next part of the game. And funny enough, it's actually one of the most epic parts of the game, too. Because as soon as you beat Gatekeeper, you start to, as Dynamite Heady, ascend to beat the final boss. Dark Damon was the character's name, who was like this ultimate puppet. And one thing that I learned much later about this game, too, and again, like, I think the thing I love the most about this game, obviously the boss fights, and I'll be showing both the Japanese and the American versions, is just how unique everything looked in this game as well. So I cannot help but gush about this game. It's really, really an awesome game. I even think I might, for some future videos, maybe do some game design breakdown of these three games, and maybe even do some like artwork stuff, maybe even some 3D modeling, and getting a little bit into Godot perhaps. I'm not 100% sure yet. Again, you know, officially this is video number 2 on the channel, so I hope that you enjoyed my gushing. I certainly enjoyed talking about these 3 games, and I will see ya in the next video. Oh! And I nearly forgot, but I did not forget to put in my socials. So you can find me at Strawberry Jen on Mastodon. Right now, my Federation thingy is Twootsite, so Strawberry Jen at Twootsite. And I also am Strawberry Jen on Blue Sky, where we all left the Twitter bird to die to go there. And also, I will have a Buy Me a Coffee up, and I would appreciate it if you were to throw $1 my way. Eventually, one fine day, I do hope to make a living out of this. However, I know that this is video number 2, and I am still learning and practicing and all of that goodness. And with all of that, I hope that you have a nice and wonderful and beautiful and awesome day. Bye!